The following podcast is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Alone in the Realm, a premium solo TTRPG podcast. I'm DV, your humble GM and adventurer. Alone in the Realm is a podcast where we let the dice drive the story, and we are along for the ride. No characters beyond death, and we let the dice lay where they fall. Ironsworn, Playing God Apothecary, Episode 18. Last episode, we sojourned in Velmark and began our journey to the coast. We failed in our first step in the journey, and we were ambushed by a thrall named Nana. We put her to rest, and now we will continue our journey. Currently, our health is at 1. Our spirit is at 1. Our supply is at 4, and our momentum is at 8. Our find food supply progress track is at an 8 out of 10. Our cast the dark acorn into the sea, or darkhorn, as I'm calling it, is at a 0 out of 10. And our journey to the East Coast is currently at a 0 out of 10. And so we'll just roll Undertake a Journey plus 3 wits and see what we get. We don't get to add anything to our roll this time. We rolled an 8 versus a 7 and a 7, a strong with a positive twist. We reach our waypoint, and if the waypoint is unknown to you, envision it. Then choose one. You make good use of your resources, mark progress, or you move at speed, mark progress, and take +1 momentum, but suffer -1 supply. I think since our other resource tracks are relatively low, I want to leave my supply high if I can. And so I'm going to make good use of my resources and mark progress on our journey. But I also get a +1 on a strong hit from my long arm ability. So that takes us from an 8 to a 9 in our momentum. And I also get a 1 progress on my journey to the East Coast, which puts us at a 3 out of 10 on our progress track. Let's see where that brings us. I'm going to roll on our location. A road, that makes sense. But it's blocked. Interesting. Dog and Ire resume their journey from Velmark. They trudge down the road, mostly not speaking about their encounter with Nana. Up ahead, they see a tree has fallen, blocking the road. Ire speaks up. Careful, this could be a trap set by bandits. Since this was a strong hit with a positive twist, I'll automatically assume that this is not the case. However, there is a merchant with a wagon train on the other side who has also been stalled by this fallen tree. Dog and Ire will help hook up the draft horses from the wagons and drag the tree from the road. In return for their efforts, the merchant agrees to give them some supplies. That brings my supply from a 4 to a 5. Now we'll go ahead and undertake a journey once again. Again, I don't get to add anything to my dice roll. We rolled a 6 versus a 10 and a 4. A weak hit. You reach another waypoint and mark progress, but we suffer -1 supply. Good thing that we encountered that merchant and have just gotten our supply back up to 5. So I'm going to reduce it back down to 4 now. We only get a +1 momentum on our long arm ability if we get a strong hit, and so we don't get to add any additional momentum. Let's see where we reach our waypoint, and we will also mark our progress. The journey to the East Coast is now at a 6 out of a 10. We'll roll on the location. And we get a lake. Broken is the descriptor. Broken lake. The two men come upon a lake with a bridge that spans a portion of the water. However, they can see that a recent flood has washed out a section of that bridge. They will have to find a way to pass this divide. First, I'm going to gather information. I'm not going to add anything to my roll other than my wits. So I'll roll a 5 versus a 1 and a 3. A strong hit. You discover something helpful and specific. The path you must follow or action you must take to make progress is made clear. Envision what you learn, and take +2 momentum. My momentum is already at a 9, so I only get to take +1, up to a 10. Ire recognizes this lake as a fruitful fishing spot. As they look for a way to cross the broken bridge, they can see clearly in the water the movement of many fish. A fishing party could be sent from Velmark to fish these waters and gain a bountiful haul. So now I'm going to face danger for the two men to leap across this broken bridge and continue on their journey. Once they reach a place of safety, they can send word back to Velmark for the fishing that is available here. I'm going to roll with Edge. And I'm going to roll the dice. We get an 8 versus a 3 and a 6. Another strong hit. We succeed, and we take +1 momentum. However, our momentum is already full at 10. And so, we just succeed. Gathering themselves, Ire and Dog individually make a running leap and jump across the span of water where the bridge has failed. Now, they can continue their journey. I'm going to undertake a journey. Once again, I'm going to roll a 7 versus a 7 and a 10. That's a miss. I could go ahead and burn my momentum, and I think I will. If I burn my momentum, that will reduce it from a miss to a weak hit, which will allow us to reach a waypoint and mark progress, but suffer 1 supply, which will take us from a 4 to a 3. We'll also reduce our momentum down to 2. If we go to our journey track, we now have 9 out of 10 progress. I think that means we're going to reach our destination. When our journey comes to an end, roll a challenge dice and compare it to your progress, and then the momentum is ignored on this roll, which is a good thing because we just burnt our momentum on our last bit of our track. And so, I'm going to mark my journey to the East Coast as my active track. We're going to roll against our 9 progress, which is a 9 versus a 7 and a 6, a strong hit. The situation at your destination favors you. Choose one, take 1 momentum, or make another move now, not a progress move, and add +1. I'm going to go ahead and take that momentum, which brings me up to a 3. And I'll mark my journey to the East Coast completed. Now we have to roll on a settlement oracle and see what this village is like on the East Coast. But first, we do need to mark our fine food supply for Velmark. 1 more progress because we found that lake. That puts us up to a 10 out of 10. Once we find our way in this settlement, perhaps we can send word back to Velmark about the fishing at the lake. Okay, I'm going to use the Ironsmith Expanded Oracles, and we're going to go to the settlements and see what kind of place this village is. I'm going to roll a d6. It gives me a 3 and then a D100, which gives me a 72. If I take a look on the number 3 table here for settlement names, and then a 72, we get gold, and then we'll roll again. A 3 and an 88. 388. Goldness. Goldness. That's a terrible name. How about Gold River? We'll call it Gold River instead. Alright. So this is a village called Gold River, and it's on the east coast of the Havens. Or now I guess we've passed out of the Havens and into the Ragged Coast. What can we find out about this village in general? 3 and 53. They have a lack of iron. Interesting. So perhaps we can get a trade set up with Veilmark. I don't know if they have a surplus of iron, but perhaps we could come to some sort of agreement with this village, provide them with iron from the mountains, and in return they could help also with the food issue of the Havens. So first, I'm going to go and we will find the leader of this settlement. So the leader is a person named Tegan. Is Tegan a man or a woman? Let's roll the action die and find out. 1 through 3 is a man. 4 through 6 is a woman. Well, there is no D6. Well, isn't that just great? Let's do her 1D2 then. 1 is a man, 2 is a woman. 2, Tegan is a woman. So we find Tegan in the village. She is one of the elders and is on the leadership council of this place. And we introduce ourselves as Dog in the Ear, Children of the Light, in search of food for our villages during our shortfall. She, in turn, tells us about the lack of iron in the area. And so we're going to try to compel her to do a trade for iron from the mountains in return for foodstuffs from the coast. We do not have a bond with her, so we're just going to roll plus heart. We rolled an 8 versus a 10 and a 6. They'll do what you want or share what they know, but they also ask for something of you in return. Envision what they want. Take +1 momentum. If you use this exchange to gather information, make that move now and add +1. I think we will. I'll go from 3 to 4 in our momentum, and then we'll gather some information to see what they need for us to do. Well, we know what they need for us to do. They need for us to get iron. Okay. We ask that they, in turn, send a messenger to Veilmark. We can hire them or something. And tell them about the food. And in return, we will help organize a caravan to bring iron to Gold River. So, I am going to fulfill my vow for finding food for the Havens. When you fulfill your vow and mark experience, take +1 experience. Alright, here we go. We're going to try to fulfill our vow to find food supply for Veilmark. We have 10 out of 10 progress there. And so we are going to roll against that 10 progress and see what we can do to fulfill our vow. We rolled a 10 versus an 8 and a 7, a strong hit. Your quest is complete. Mark experience. 1 for troublesome, 2 for dangerous, 3 for formidable, 4 for extreme, and 5 for epic. What did we mark find food supply as? It was a dangerous vow. So we get +2 experience, +1 from our banner sword. So that's 3 additional experience, which takes us up to 32 experience. We have now 6 experience available. I'm going to mark this vow complete, and I'm going to add progress to our gain leadership in Veilmark, because this current quest was created as part of gaining leadership in Veilmark. And so we have shown our leadership abilities, and I'm going to give myself progress of a 4 out of 10 in that formidable vow of gaining leadership in Veilmark. Okay, now we must gather some information about casting this dark acorn into the sea. We get a +1 to our gather information roll from our other move there. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to gather information using wits +1 and see what we get about finding a ship to take us out to sea. We rolled a 7 versus a 2 and a 10, a weak hit. The information complicates your quest or introduces a new danger. Envision what you discover and take +1 momentum. Alright. I'm going to envision what we discover here. I'm going to roll a 1 on my d6 and a 49 on my action dice. So 46 on the number 1 table is mourn. Okay. And then for our theme, we're going to roll again. 4 and a 24. Mourn cowardice. Oh, interesting. We'll mark 1 and in our cast the dark acorn into the sea, which gives us 2 out of 10 progress on that vow. Dog and I here wander the docks, searching for a ship that will be willing to take us out to sea and cast this darkhorn into the depths. They learn of a ship that is preparing to launch shortly, and they rush to the docks to try and barter passage. For the Ironlander name, I roll a 4 and a 31. That is Kerr. So the captain of the ship's name is Kerr. Let's roll a descriptor for Kerr. 4 and a 14. 4 and a 14. He's squeamish. Interesting. Along with the mourn and cowardice, I think this Captain Kerr is afraid of something. What is it? What is he afraid of? Oracle, is there a storm on its way that has Captain Kerr scared? We'll roll a 50-50 odds. No. Well, we know he's squeamish. Oh, perhaps Captain Kerr suffers from vertigo or seasickness, which is a very bad thing for a captain of a ship. Yeah, that's it. Let's see if we can compel him to give us passage, and in return, Dog will attempt to heal him using herbalism. Here we go. We're going to use a compel. We get no bonuses. And we will use Heart to charm, pacify, or barter. No bond. We'll roll a 3 versus a 7 and a 10, which is a miss. They refuse or make a demand which costs you greatly. Pay the price. We also get to add 1 progress to our learn from our failures. That brings us up to a 4 out of a 10 on that progress track. So they refuse our offer of helping with their seasickness because they are scared to go out onto the water. So pay the price. Let's take a look at the pay the price tables and see what we might need to do there. We'll roll a 3 and an 18. So on the number 3 table, number 18, You are tempted to abandon the vow. Oh, interesting. The only vow I can imagine abandoning at this point is the one to cast the Darkhorn into the sea. That's the only one that is relevant to this situation. Let's see how this plays out. The captain, Kerr, mentions his inability to effectively manage his ship due to his seasickness. It has completely debilitated him. Dog offers assistance in the way of healing, and in return, if Kerr can take them out to the depths of the sea, they can cast away the Darkhorn. Kerr makes a sign against evil, and tries to convince Dog and Nair that only ill can come of such a trip. Dog believes that is mostly the illness causing Kerr these negative thoughts, so he decides to go and find a relevant herb that will treat Kerr's malady, and hopefully that will change his mind. So we're going to go on in another adventure. We're going to gather some information and see if we can find an herb in the surrounding areas to treat Kerr's malady. Going to roll wits. We don't get to add anything to our roll at this point. We roll a 4 versus a 5 and a 7. Another miss. Your investigation unearths a dire threat or reveals an unwelcome truth that undermines your quest. Pay the price. First, I'm going to increase my progress on my learn from my failures. It gives me up to a 5. We're doing a lot of misses now all of a sudden. So let's pay the price once again and see what we get. We'll roll on the pay the price table. We get a 2 and a 27. 2 and a 27. Something of value is lost or destroyed. Let's roll on the tables, aspect and focus, and see what we get for what causes us to lose this stuff. 4 and 93. Baron. That already gives me a good idea. 4 and a 93. Baron Enigma. Baron Enigma. So as we're searching for herbs, we find that none are available in this particular area that we can treat Kerr's illness with. And so, while we're looking, it takes up a lot of time, and we lose a lot of our momentum that we have built up. So I'm going to go ahead and do a -2 momentum from a 5 to a 3 due to all that lost time and effort. We're really in a bad way now. The only thing we can do to resolve this issue with Kerr is to somehow convince him to take us out into the sea and help us remove this acorn. And so, what I'm going to do is we're going to try to do a resupply move. And if we can get a good roll on a resupply, perhaps I can at least gather enough of my things to make a concoction that will help him. So we're going to roll resupply with wits once again. We rolled a 5 versus a 1 and a 6. Take up to 2 supply, but suffer -1 momentum for each. That will put me back up to a 5 supply, but our momentum will go down from 3 to a 2. But at least I'm able to forage and find the herbal remedy that I need to help Kerr, Captain Kerr. And so with the remedy in hand, we go back to the captain and we offer to treat him and see if we can change his mind after being treated. If we take a look at the herbalist asset, when you heal a companion, ally, or other character and score a hit, take +1 spirit or +1 momentum. Also, on the herbalist, we get to add +2 to our roll. So I'm going to add +2 to our roll. That gives us a 7 versus a 9 and a 3. as above, but we must suffer -1 supply or -1 momentum, your choice. But we also get to take +1 spirit, which is what I will do. And we'll lose 1 momentum, down to a 1 now. So we're able to heal Captain Kerr of his malady. And now he will agree to take us out into the sea. That's going to be it for this episode. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you did, be sure and hit that like button. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.